It is commonplace to hear people say or tell someone you're very conservative. Today we are going to look at the real conservation. By literary meaning, a careful preservation and protection of something or somewhere, maybe planned management of a natural resource area to prevent unsustainable exploitation, destruction or neglect. We shall be looking at conservation and alternative livelihood option. Many at times if you go to a community and they tell you, don't hunt, don't poach the forest for endangered species, the question now is, what do we do in alternative? That is what we'll be sustaining here today. And as much as government says we are conserving the natural resource sector in Nigeria, what are the alternative livelihood options available? Are they sustainable? My guest to sustain this discussion is the Conservator General, National Park Service in Nigeria, Ibrahim Musa Goni. Good to have you on Insight.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, conservation goals include protecting species from extinction, maintaining and restoring habitats, enhancing ecosystem sciences, and protecting biological diversity. Let's look at it generically. Where are we with conservation in Nigeria?
Thank you very much, and good day, Nigerians. In Nigeria, we are at a level that I would say is precedented. And because Nigeria has been a signatory to so many conventions, Biodiversity Convention, CITES, name it. And under the Biodiversity Convention, Nigeria has domesticated the convention that leads to the establishment of the National Park Service in the country. Apart from having other protected areas, which it has also adopted, the forest reserves, the game reserves, the biosphere reserve, the nature strict reserves. Nigeria presently has 7 national parks covering a total area of 23,000 square kilometers, which is 3% forest cover of the total land area. Whereas the IUCN says we should have 25%. It means the National Park Service, with what, in addition to what we have in the forest and game reserves, we today have about 6.7% of our total land area under forest cover. There's need to do more, however.
Population increases every day.
Yeah.
Do we have a commensurate regeneration of the forest reserve in terms of timber, non-timber species, and animal wildlife species?
The population increase in Nigeria is not commensurate with the land availability. Land is static, it does not increase, but the population increases. So you should expect that the population will be having its toll on land use practices, land available, and of course, land that is good for agriculture. So, and given this scenario, the activities of man, like you have mentioned, timber exploitation, poaching, farming, and of course, mining of recent, has degraded the Nigerian environment. And this is the effort government is making, part of which is having the 7 national parks intact. Going beyond the constitutional provision of trying to carry along the states, which of course have the forests and game reserves as their own property, based on the provisions of the Land Use Act. So this collaboration with the states is of course translating to some slight increases in land recovery forest regeneration, and of course afforestation, because the government is also embarking on projects like the Green Bond in order to increase the forest cover.
Okay. I'll come to the issue of state-federal collaboration.
Yes.
Now, we have been able to set the tone somewhere now. Now, in preaching conservation, for instance, your core mandate is on wildlife. Am I correct?
Yes.
Does it include timber resources too?
When you say wildlife, it's an embodiment of both plant and animals.
Beautiful. Now, population increases.
Yes.
Population explodes every other day.
Yes.
Now, conservation means the need to, even if you hunt or exploit, you exploit sustainably, not unsustainably.
Yes.
In the course of preaching this,
yes,
what available alternatives do you have for the people, and how sustainable are these livelihood options? Because, for instance, a man has been used to living on hunting, say, antelopes over the years, and he has a huge market, even beyond the shores of Nigeria.
Yes.
And suddenly, National Park comes and says, stop hunting. What alternative? How do you handle it?
Thank you very much. Prior to the 1990s, way back to 1970, the concept used to be preservation. We were preserving and not touching, because that is the concept. You preserve.
Okay. Preservation, conservation.
Yes.
Okay.
You preserve, you don't touch. As late as 1990, the concept has changed to conservation because of the fact that it is realized that the human population is increasing, and you cannot completely divorce human being from the environment. Therefore, there is need to plan, provide options, and these options are the alternative livelihood, which are just intervention programs.
Okay.
They are just intervention programs to ameliorate the sufferings of the people, to be able to respect the opinions and aspirations of the people, and to also be able to win the people on your side so that they reason the way you are reasoning.
Okay.
To make this program sustainable, government alone cannot do it. You need individuals, you need non-governmental organizations, and of course you need either local donors, national donors, or international donors. And this is what obtains in some of the national parks we have, where we have either NGOs assisting government efforts, international donors collaborating with government to at least make the community realize their aspiration, and the rest of them.
Okay. Do you have any excellent example anywhere in the country where conservation is going on and they have alternative livelihood options that is working out and it has taken them off the fringes of the forest?
We do have several examples.
Okay.
In Cross River National Parks, WWF was there. They have brought a lot of skills, trained a lot of the members of the communities, and they have even gone to the extent of trying to integrate conservation vis-a-vis community living. And in the national parks today, we have complemented that work of the WWF by allowing the communities in that area to access the non-timber products.
Sustainably or
sustainably? That of course.
Because there are two things.
Yes.
If I, for instance, go into get maybe otasi, for instance,
yes,
and I don't do it sustainably,
yes,
or maybe I'm going to get rabbits, and I see a particular colony, I kill the entire colony, how will you regenerate and go back?
It's sustainable.
Okay.
Because the people are organized into groups, either women groups or social groups. And any time, this is periodic, of course you are aware. So when the time comes for you to maybe go into the national park and harvest bush mango, it is done on a regulated basis. You are registered, you are recorded how many people are going in, how many people are coming out, when did you go last, when are you going again. All this is planned so that you go there, you harvest what you want to harvest. And you should also be careful not to uproot, because when you harvest, we expect regeneration. So when we allow you uproot, we are, of course, removing that plant completely from that way. This is one aspect of sustainable livelihood we have been able to provide. In some cases, like Gashaka Gumti National Park, we have had a vocational center where we have trained people in carpentry, tailoring, saloon, and paint making, and other micro skills. These people today are the ones telling their people, don't do this to the environment, don't do this to the environment, don't do this to the environment. And of course, that has, to some extent, we have had some peace there. This is the same concept we are trying to extend to our national parks that are in the savanna areas, like Kainji, Kamuku, so that we can organize the people on a sustainable basis to be able to go in there and harvest plants like Botrospermum, of course, the shea butter, okay, the pakia, which they call the daudawa in Hausa, and so many economic plants. You don't only pick the fruits. So when you pick the fruit, next time, by next year, it produces again, it falls down. You go there, pick it. One, you are helping the environment because you are reducing the clusters of plants that will not have allowed other plants to grow. So that way, at least, we are going to give at least some improvement to the environment, and also have the people engage, so that by that they can be able to produce this shea butter oil, which of course through the assistance of Nexim Bank, some big shots are going into that one to be able to.
So from all what you're telling me now, would you say that national park conservation in Nigeria is gaining traction or is losing traction?
National park conservation in Nigeria is gaining traction. With these several requests we have from various state governments now. As I'm talking to you now, there are 9 state governors that have applied for their forest reserve to be taken over as national parks. If they are not impressed with the efforts of the federal government, I'm sure they wouldn't be intending to key into this national park.
Is it because of the size of managing it, or the benefit of having a conserved forest? Because there are two things. Maybe they are not able to manage it anymore, so they want to push the burden off them.
Well, I wouldn't want to speak for the states.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to speak for the state. But as far as I am concerned, and I know there are requests awaiting the president's action to be sent to the National Assembly, so that these areas can be upgraded to national parks.
Okay.
Yes.
But what you're doing demands that a good cluster of Nigerians should know about conservation. Are you sure about the population that is aware of conservation in Nigeria? Talking about from schools, from kindergarten. If a child from kindergarten understands what conservation is, why he or she should not go to the forest either for timber or non-timber forest products, what is popularly called the NTFPs, right?
Yes.
If a child at that level gets to know and is acculturized, he or she grows with that. Are we sure of this size of education of the people?
Thank you very much. This is a very interesting question. Because even from the creation of man, Adam and Eve, they were thrown into a garden, and with a instruction, don't touch this. But man disobeyed. We are here today. So for the federal government to say, don't touch this, and people touch it, it's not a reason to say that we should not do our job. That apart, the concept of why maybe many Nigerians may not be aware of what we are doing in the national parks, or may tend not to know, because to the best of my ability, I believe we are doing our best.
But they ought to know, given the mandate you have.
Yes, they ought to know.
Okay.
They ought to know, because environment affects their livelihood. But around the 70s and 80s, before the 70s and 80s, Nigeria was into agriculture. Nigeria was even into tourism. The number of overlanders, the number of foreign visitors we have visiting this country were in troops. But with the discovery of oil around 1975, the thinking of the Nigerian people changed. We believe this is easy money, forgetting the fact that oil is not sustainable. What is sustainable is this forest management and the national parks. There are national parks today that have oils under them, but because the government says don't touch, nobody there goes there. So we are doing our best, but I believe our best is not enough. And that is why we need agencies like the NTA and other media houses to assist, come to the aid of the government, come to the assistance of the National Park Service in order to create the needed awareness so that what we say Nigerians ought to know, they will know.
Okay. Before I ask you the next question, let me read this.
Yes.
Interventions that aimed at reducing the prevalence of activities deemed to be environmentally damaging by substituting them with lower impact livelihood activities that provide at least equivalent benefit. Still talking about conservation and alternative livelihood option.
Yes.
Do we have an education unit in the national park, and how available are they to schools, to communities, so that they get to know by their fingertips what the do's and don'ts of what you're doing?
We have a conservation education unit in the National Park Service, and that unit coordinates the activities of visiting students. That unit also establishes conservation clubs in the schools around the national parks. As far as we have about 123 conservation clubs in various schools surrounding all the national parks, surrounding the 7 national parks in this country. And the schools are such that participate in our activities. Whenever we're doing any activities, we invite them. We even organize programs like quiz, debate, and symposia for them to make sure that we're able to capture them at a very tender age. And I believe that has also transformed into many universities, introducing environmental courses so as to be able to take care of the interests and aspirations of these young ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the National Park Service, let's say not all the parks, were heavily supported by WWF, NCF, and a host of other NGOs, I can't remember now, multinationally based.
Yes.
You were very vibrant, you were very visible. Are you still as visible as that now?
We are as visible as that.
In terms of activities?
We are as visible as that. The fact that WWF is no longer supporting us, NCF, we are still together. Other NGOs are still coming. We have just signed an MOU with African nature investors. And as I'm talking to you, they have started work in Gashaka Gumti National Park, try to protect the flora and fauna, train the rangers, and of course give technical support to the service. We are also rubbing shoulders with the American Embassy, of course, has been of great support to us. By next week, Friday, I'll be meeting the Belarus Embassy. These are all ways of thinking out of the box in order to be able to complement what the federal government is doing with what our own effort can at least complement the government effort, so that by the time we have the federal government effort, we have this other non-governmental effort, at least we'll be able to shine as we used to shine when WWF, NCF were with us. Okay.
So if we say that maybe United Nations comes to you and says, under our climate action,
yes,
and they tell you what mitigation efforts or remediation efforts do you have in the national park to assuage climate change challenge in Nigeria, are you ready?
We have a package we can present to them for mitigation. Don't forget, I've told you about the percentage forest cover. That alone allows carbon sequestration to at least to a reasonable percentage. That is one way of mitigating the effect of climate change.
Sure.
Then, the other possible ways of mitigating the effect of climate change might be educating people to have respect for environmental practices. That is why we have the federal government is trying to increase NDC. This NDC, INDC, intended National Development Contribution. after the president have signed the Paris Club Agreement on climate change and climate action, the government tried to increase its INDC.
Okay.
That way, at least, we are adopting climate-friendly practices.
Okay.
And that this, like the solar energy and the rest of them. So all these are ways of trying to mitigate a climate change effect.
Okay. Conservator General of National Parks in Nigeria, Service Nigeria, Ibrahim Musa Gun. It was nice having you on Insight.
Thank you very much.
I would believe this was a part of it. Maybe we'll bring you subsequent for other parts of the program.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll be looking.
Up next on Insight is the media review segment. Don't go away.